Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be focusing on how to take ordinary data and making it more interesting. So as an example, behind me we have a chart that's a count of purchasers per day. This is pretty standard, nothing fancy. So what we're going to try to do is add some zest to that chart, make it more interesting, get that chart to stimulate more conversation. So how do we do that? What's worked for me in the past is to take a metric and apply it to a different context or setting. Behind me is a chart of installs and their day one retention. So that's pretty standard for online businesses who acquire customers through paid channels. They want to know how many installs did we have, and of those installs, how many came back the following day or tomorrow. So what we can do is, instead of applying day one retention to installs, we can apply them to purchasers and take that metric and apply it to a different context. And what we can do is we can take that original purchasers chart and we can say, okay, we have X number of purchasers per day. What percentage of those purchasers log back into the app or into the game or revisit your website the very next day? So we're going to do that together in MySQL. Okay, so here we are in MySQL, and this is our revenue table, just revenue transactions. So the first thing we want to do is we want to limit our data to the current month. And as of this recording, the recording date is August 27th. So we want data for the month of August 2024. And the data is going to be through prior days, so it'll be August 26th. So I'm going to show you how to do something pretty essential, which is to get the first day of the month in a dynamic way that isn't a manual value or anything like that. Okay, great, it worked. As you can see, it took today's date, which is August 27th, and returned the first day of the month, which is August 1st. So we're going to take that and we're going to save it, put it down here. And we're going to say where the purchase date is greater than or equal to August 1st, 2024. Okay, I will show you this is working because we're going to return a distinct column of dates or date values. Look, and they're all dates from August. So August 1st all the way through the prior day, which is the max date value that we have in this table. So August 1st to August 26th. That's pretty cool. So to give you an exact recap on how this is working, it's taking the current date, which is August 27th, and then basically subtracting out those 27 days. So it's adding a negative 27 to today's date, which is August 27th, and thus returning the first day of the month. So again, you can do this dynamically, meaning if I take this statement and I run it, let's say December 22nd, it will return December 1st, 2024. Very useful. Okay, so we have revenue transactions for August of 2024. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a count of distinct purchasers per day in August. Because there could be multiple revenue transactions per person per day, let's just take a distinct on the customer ID and purchase date. So this is distinct purchasers per purchase date. So what that means is if you purchase 10 times on August 26th, you'll just have one record as a purchaser on August 26th. But if you bought on August 26th and August 25th, you'll have a record for August 25th and August 26th. Just for clarification. So we're going to call this table A. So when we are calculating retention, it's basically a forward or future looking metric. So it's really important to know how far your data set goes before you calculate retention. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a window function right now to get the max purchase date value in this entire table or data set so that we know how far we can run day one retention for. This will make more sense in a couple minutes. So because we just want a straight max purchase date value out of this table, we don't need to add anything to the over clause in this window function. And it's going to be through prior day, which is pretty customary for most data warehouses. Yep, so through prior day, which is August 26th, because today is August 27th, 2024. I'm going to call this entire subselect, or these two subselects, as per for purchasers, One thing I'm going to do is add a day one retention column so that we know the date or the date value that would be considered day one retained if we find this purchaser in the login table on that date. Okay, so here is where things get thought-provoking, right? Let me actually, before we get into the thought-provoking segment, I want to change the ordering of these columns. I know it's kind of crazy, but it'll be easier to understand. Okay, back to the fun part. So if you look at this first row, we have a customer that bought on August 20th. We don't know if they bought one time or 10 times, but they bought at least once, right? That's what we want, is a count of unique purchasers per day in that histogram. But what we want to know is, hey, we know they bought on August 20th, but did they log back into the app or the game or revisit our website the day after they purchased, which would be August 21st, right? And then we have this max purchase date field or value, which says our data is good through prior day or August 26th. So I will show you why that becomes relevant right now. Let's say we have someone that bought yesterday, August 26th, right? We want to know, did they log back in the next day, which would be today, August 27th? Well, our data is only good through August 26th, so unfortunately that data isn't fully baked. We'd have to wait until tomorrow to get that information. So by having these columns together, we can write logic in here to only keep the fully baked data, meaning we can calculate day one retention because it's still through yesterday's date, prior day. So what we want to do is we want to add a condition to our where clause that says we want to make sure that their purchase date retained is less than or equal to the max purchase date to ensure that we have enough data to actually calculate the day one retention field, since it is time sensitive. Okay, so let's sort this data and make sure that's happening. What we can do is we can sort this descending and say, okay, the max purchase date in this table now is August 25th. So that would mean we would need August 26th data to calculate day one retention. And it works because we do have, or the max purchase date value is August 26th, which means we're in the clear, we can calculate this. Cool. And now for the calculation itself. So this is already a lot of SQL. Let's actually hold up real quick and save this into a table. Okay, now we're running all of this. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to take this purchasers table and we're going to join it to our login table. And it'll be on the purchaser, so the customer ID to the customer ID, and then the purchase date retained to the login date to see did they log in the following day after their purchase. Saving data into tables is a great way to kind of mentally reset, so I'm really happy we did this. So again, this is our table, just bringing back all the columns. First, I want to show you our logins table. This is a table that we're gonna do a left join over to. So it's just customer ID, login date, and then total number of sessions, and then total minutes in that session. So again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna join on customer ID, and then we're gonna join not on purchase date and login date, but purchase date retained, which is purchase date +1 to the login date, so that we ask or answer whether or not they logged in the following day from purchase. That's where the nugget of interest is here. So let's do that now. So again, we joined on purchase date retained with login date. And all we simply need to do is write a case statement. So case when this login date is not null, then 1 else 0 end. So if the login date is not null, that means yes, that purchaser logged in a day after they made their purchase. All we need to do now is just do a count of these customer IDs and then aggregate it by the purchase date. Great, and here's our data. Now let's move this over to Excel. So here we are in Excel. All we need to do is just calculate the day one retention. So what percentage of purchasers came back in the following day? Okay, we are nearly there. So you can right click and go to change chart type, go down to combo, and put the percent login next day on the secondary axis. And there we have it. Here's our data. And again, this is much more interesting than just sending out a histogram that's a count of purchasers per day, because this gives additional business value. It's saying, okay, we have X number of purchasers per day. That's great. That's common knowledge. But this orange trend line here is saying, okay, people typically purchase, and of them, 60% come back the next day and 40% don't. And to a business, that could be a red flag, like, wow, that's a real head scratcher. 40% of our purchasers buy, and then the next day they don't interact or engage with our product or our website or app whatsoever. So again, this is just one sort of easy method to take something generic and make it more interesting. Thank you so much for joining today's session. Continue to like and subscribe. Catch you next time. Thank you.